How do you compare people in America versus Pakistan? They're in Pakistan, they're smarter, much smarter. Biggest resource in Pakistan is the best young and middle age and young people with so much skills. In Pakistan, I am saying there are, for every one problem, there are 10 solutions also.
So you were making kids' toys at the age of 10 and selling those toys.
That is correct. 10 or 11 years old. So
Right.
again, that's how I made my pocket money. And only when I came into the United States,
Right.
in the late 60s, is I started hearing the word entrepreneur.
Hello and welcome everyone to DigiTales episode 59. My name is Faizan, founder and CEO of East River, and today I have a guest with me all the way from the west coast of the United States in California, Pervaiz Lodhie. Pervaiz Lodhie is also known as the father of the LED light bulb, which he created and packaged in the 70s. His business called LEDtronics is one of the leading businesses in the world in LED lighting technology, and they have over 13,000 different product types that they have developed for companies around the world. He's also someone who is very passionate about Pakistan. He was the founding director and trustee of President Musharraf's Pakistan Human Development Fund. He has been a part of the US Department of Justice and has participated in many community outreach programs. His alma mater, the California State University, is something that he still is engaged with through its industry advisory board. And we get to chat with him and discover his entrepreneurship skills that he discovered at the age of 10. Pervaiz Saab, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. And so you said, you were mentioning to me, you discovered that you were an entrepreneur at the age of 10. I'd love to hear more about that.
That is correct. When I was, growing up, going to the school, my parents took care of all the needs except my pocket money. And since lucky for me, I'm a third generation engineer, from grandfather to father to myself.
Right.
And that probably just from birth became that I just saw. I grew up in tools and things and how to use them and how to do all these kinds of things. So at that point, I started all kinds of things like designing custom spinning tops and
Nice.
making pocket money from. There used to be those the carpenters in the Eidgah Maidan in Karachi, off of
Right.
Bandar Road,
Right.
Bandar Road. And then yo-yos. I made many yo-yos.
So you were making kids' toys at the age of 10 and selling those toys.
That is correct. 10 or 11 years old. So
Right.
again, that's how I made my pocket money. And only when I came into the United States,
Right.
in the late 60s, is I started hearing the word entrepreneur, and I said, "Oh,
That's
that's
me.
what."
But you went into engineering, which is, engineers typically are, very sort of tunnel visioned, as most people say, because they know one thing and they know that one thing better than everyone else around them. Entrepreneurship requires you to know a little bit of everything. Was that a transition for you to go from engineering to entrepreneurship?
I think it's just a fate that as I was growing up, BBS Parsi School is a technical school. They
Right.
they they show technical skills and train you some of that along with education. Then
Right.
my family's inheritance of being being an engineering minded environment, and my own desire to come up with ideas and all that. So I think, as fate would have it, my in all during my education, that I had education as well as practical application of that education constantly.
Okay.
Like, so once I did my 3 years in DJ Science College, I was suddenly grabbed by a friend of my father's,
Right.
because he wanted to set up a carpet spinning yarn with Platt Brothers machinery from England, and that was in 1963. So
Wow.
here I'm trying to get into the NED Engineering College to complete my engineering degree. I think I was always intended more towards the practical side of applying the engineering.
So it's
And
more less theoretical, more practical. What are the functional benefits, and how do you create value?
so I think, like I said, a very large number of population of all countries are not really into the educational side of it. They're basic education and then skills. That's how you get the best plumbers. That's why how you get the best electricians. That's how you get the best masons. That's how you get the best carpenters. That's how you get. So I probably was lucky to have education and get the degree, bachelor's degree in America, 3 years in DJ Science College. But as I progressed between education and really good level of practical application of that education, it kept, I would say, enforcing in me how to, make use of that education.
And
So
you decided to put that education to use in a very specific industry that didn't exist in the 70s, which was LED lighting. How did that bridge come by? Like, where did you come across that jump? LED lighting in the 70s, no one was thinking of that.
No. So in 72, my brother and I was the junior member of that company, started a company making small indicators. These are man-machine indicators, but using incandescent. Incandescent technology has been around for a long time, maybe 100 years or whatever, using with a filament bulb. Initially they call them the filament bulb.
Okay.
And we were making indicators at that time. And then in 72, a company called Exiton came up with molding the first LED from a chip that gave out a little bit of light, very little amount of light.
Right.
Yeah, and that is when, because of my electromechanical, I would say application, habit and trying to always fix things. Even before all my life, I've just figured whenever I see something, I either say how I can fix it or make it better. As
Right.
an engineer, I was always towards what can I do to make it better? What can I do to make it work? Or fix it or whatever. So this was always that kind of a attitude that I took that bulb and then packaged it with a base and a resistor and everything else and all that, and that was good enough for some very special applications. So that was the time when LEDs started getting packaged. So in 72, I created that first light bulb that, fortunately, there's an industry called the broadcast industry, which you are linked with. And
Right.
you have that big keyboard, broadcast keyboard. And if you
Correct.
can think of it in the 70s, that keyboard is in a very dark room because you cannot afford to have light in that room, as it is recording.
And so you're
But the
switching
keyboard,
between cameras using the buttons, and you're getting different frames and everything.
yeah, and the buttons have to be visible. So
Correct.
when you have the buttons have to be visible, you have to have very, very little light that is lighting them up. So this LED bulb was ideal for that as one of the,
What a
initial.
unique application. And how did you figure out that particular application for this?
Again, the customers in America, it starts with the major customers. They call them the original equipment manufacturers. They're always, in America, they're always looking at innovations. Innovation is another name for America.
Right.
So they were always looking for ideas. So once they knew that there was a solution, they start keep asking for solutions. So I even till today, uh, until 4 or 5 years ago, I was being asked by a major customer in America uh, to solve a light bulb problem or an indicator problem that does not exist right now, and they're having a problem. Like even today, for a major railroad company in America, I'm fixing their issue. So it requires some thought process of meeting the customer's expectations. And the older technology has had many, many problems. It has had problems for it's a man-machine indicator. So some industries like the utilities and power plants, railroad, or you can have many other industries where a failed bulb incandescent can create a bad, I would say, signal.
Yeah.
So LEDs, basically, if they're built correctly, designed correctly, used correctly in the environment, they basically, I tell the customers always, they last forever. You know,
So
they take
LEDs actually last forever.
If they are built correctly and used correctly, and the environment is correct. So I would basically answer the customers that it basically lasts forever.
Got
So
it.
it's been a great 40-year journey for me in terms of solving. So constantly, almost until 4 or 5 years ago, every single day there was a request that needed helping a conversion of a bad bulb into a LED bulb that solved their problem. And you just don't put two things together. No, you have to get some really important input from the customer, their key application, requirement, environment, and all these things. And when you put them together, the engineering mind that I always have, I'm always wanting to learn more and more and more. It's just always wanting to learn. So I think in America, that's what it is. It's just the mind is allowed to just go any
And
extreme
there's a
that
lot
you
of
want.
demand. There's a lot of industries that you can apply any technology, any improvements, any sort of any application that is going to create a solution for a customer. And it doesn't matter if you require further investment in it, you need to develop it further, versus in a market like Pakistan, where we don't focus on evolving technology. We just continue giving the customer the same because there isn't the ability to afford. Versus in America, you can afford, given its high GDP per capita.
Right. Again, I think uh, I I've said that for many years, because when I came to America to continue my education, I intended to come back to Pakistan, and I did come back for 4 years, but I saw that it was in turmoil in '76, and I lasted
If
four
you think
years.
if you think 76 was turmoil, you should come see what's happening right now.
No, no, I do stay connected. Like I said, a month and a half ago, I was there. I stay connected with Pakistan on multiple levels. And like I said, I will
You
still
have a
open.
factory here, in fact. You have a factory in the export processing zone.
And that is one of the biggest blessings of my life. So
What made you set up a factory here? You could have set up a factory anywhere else in the world. You
I,
do,
I
because
would,
you were based in
that,
California.
exactly. Now, again, the idea is, if anybody asked me, and being in America, creating a manufacturing company, creating a industry that didn't exist for 40 plus years, I think I can probably say a lot of things with authority of some level.
Right.
Uh, if I was to say that if there are 4 or 5 countries in the world with the best resources, I would say one of them would outright be Pakistan, no doubt about it.
You're one of the few people who says that. I'd love to hear why.
No, some of my friends have. It is absolutely, I can guarantee. Pakistan, I will still say, with a few corrective actions, as they call them in the quality system, corrective actions, a few small corrective actions, and it's not all because the government doesn't want to. I think it's a people revolution, that if a few small corrective actions are done in various areas, Pakistan can almost overnight become one of the richest countries in the world. No
Pick
doubt
three
about it.
corrective actions. What would be the three you
Oh,
would
there are
pick?
too, there are too many, but I want to stay focused on this, specifically the exporting areas and all that. So, as I was developing thousands of new solutions and creating a brand new industry, I don't know how many Pakistanis have created a brand new industry. I don't know. You know,
Right.
uh, I know that one gentleman created the plastic molded bumpers, from
And has done very
Chicago.
well. And has
Yeah, he's
done very
done
well.
very. I, I'm still a very small company, with the perception in the big company. The perception these large Fortune 500 companies in America have about me is that we are a very large company. We are not. It's just a perception. And then,
It's not a bad perception.
but the way we do things, those companies like IBM and you can say, I think Caterpillar, IBM, Eaton Cutler, you cannot imagine all the power plants in the United States, major railroad companies in the United States. Uh, we solve their indicator problems and supply them. GE has been one of our oldest customer and all that for 30 plus 40 years. So the idea is that once I had created the solutions, they became an ideal, I would say, they became an ideal industry for China to use, to utilize, because for 40 years, going back to the subject we are planning to talk about, I have been dealing with China since China was not a rich country or was just before the revolution in China, economic revolution in China. So I have been dealing with China and Chinese companies and Chinese vendors for 40 years, initially with Taiwan, and then the Taiwanese companies became, they established their factories in China and then with China. And I still do very large amount of purchases from China, all the components. In 90s, I realized that because what I was developing required very high labor content. And in mid 90s, since I never really, being an engineer, I never say that something cannot be done. So in the 90s, either I had two choices, either to go bankrupt and shut the company down because China had taken over all the,
The
designs
low
and everything.
cost designs, the labor solutions.
One tenth the cost. And I said, now let's, and I'm an entrepreneur in multiple ways. I save my own data, analyze my own data, and look at it. So I said, I have to figure out that in my labor content, what do I do to bring it down so that again save the company. And my friends, my Pakistani friends, oh, why don't you go to Mexico? Why don't you go to Jabal Ali? Why don't you go to, so and so and all that? And I said, okay. I looked around. I said, where do I find the best resource of most intelligent people at low price, do my work and all that stuff? And lo and behold, in 1998, I was given a space in Karachi Export Processing Zone. You have heard that? It's a zone which is in the country, but it behaves like something independent. So I said, there's no doubt that that place would be the starting point. And today, 24 years later, I tell you, it is the biggest blessing of my life that not only they do things at the same cost as China, but with much, much less issues, problems, questions. I mean, you asked one question, how do you compare people in America versus Pakistan? They're in Pakistan, they're smarter, much smarter.
No, but I don't. One thing that I want to sort of push back on is you've got a space in the export processing zone. It's a great location, but it's very hard to get a space there today for anyone looking to set up. Limited amounts of land, very bureaucratic, the
Right,
process and stuff. Number two, there's Karachi rife with all sorts of issues, whether it's gas, electricity,
right,
power,
right,
strikes,
right,
transport will get held up.
right.
These are issues you don't see in, let's say, China now, or you don't
Right,
see these issues in Jabal Ali, or you don't see these issues in parts of Mexico or South
right,
America.
right.
Don't you feel that these issues impact the efficiency of your business? Sure, you're giving back to the country that you were born in and the city that you were raised in. But let's be very practical from a business standpoint. the efficiency is compromised if you are to set up here versus any of the places you also name. Isn't
First
that the
of all,
case?
yeah, first of all, in KEPZ, Karachi Export Processing Zone, in 24 years, I've had zero problems. The and again, whether it is my, I would say, I don't know. It's just miracle for me. The team that I set up in 98 is basically the same team. And today, I give them respect. I give them tools. I give them freedom. I give them, all kinds of, like I said, support and all that. And they're just like the people in my factory in Los Angeles. They have become my family. And I have never really sent anybody to train them. I don't, when I go to Karachi, I only go there to say thank you to the people working at that factory.
Right.
There's about 70, 80 people today. There were a lot more when economy was better and all that stuff like that. But they are the best people in the world, very devoted. They're carrying out work. And like I said, they pick up mistakes that we make in America in terms of the
Wow.
design now. And what is happening is that, again, I'm constantly finding things to start shifting from being made in either in America or Taiwan or China. I'm slowly starting to shift some work to Karachi because of
Why
the
is
ability.
that? What is it specifically about this talent that you find is different?
Pakistan overall is a great country for value added work. Okay. Now, initially, when Pakistan was made, there were industries, very few industries have survived.
Right.
Whether it is the surgical industry or the soccer ball industry, and a few textile factories have survived. And there's a reason why they have survived, because they follow some very key requirements of their customers in the West, Europe, other places. China does the same, So those are basic, and they are not in the zone. None of those companies are in the zone. They have their own. They have figured out, as you said, the difficulties. They figured out how to get the energy situation, how to figure out the gas problem, how to figure out. Those are much minimal compared to uh, being able to basically get customers in the West pay a very good price for their products. But again, the textile industry that is successful, there are two, three reasons. It is value added stuff. And then the people manufacturing in Pakistan don't ship directly to the customer in the West. They ship it to a dropping point in America, either to their relative or their son or their daughter or whatever, where it is quality checked again over there. Same thing with your surgical instruments. Same thing with you. You really, like I said, you do need to make sure uh, that things are properly checked before the customer sees it. Same thing with you can now talk about the digital age, the programming, like the NetSol companies belongs to a friend of mine, Najib Wari. He's a Los Angeles, very close friend. Again, the back end value added work can be any kind, and the quality of people over there are such that they can create tremendous stuff. But the reason most companies, first of all, in order to get one customer in the West, you almost have to reach about 3,300 customers, potential
Wow.
customers.
That's a very bad conversion ratio.
No, but that's normal. That's very normal.
So you
For
reach 3,000 people to get one customer.
So first of all, you have to do a few basic, very important things when you have to meet and exceed customers' expectations. And so if you reach 100 customers, maybe two or three will get interested in you, but not give you an order. The whole thing is the problems I've personally faced, faced starting Shan Technologies in Karachi in 1998. So what I'm speaking is from my personal experience dealing with China for the last 40 years. Same problems. And then my own 24 years setting up a place in Karachi and communicating with them, same problems. And the same problems are going to be between Bangladesh and the West, Vietnam and the West, China and the West. All countries will have the same problem on both sides. So what I faced in Pakistan, and I listed some of those, is the most important thing is when if you the communication with a potential customer, if he's interested in your product, the communication has to be very, very good quality. That means you shouldn't have connecting problems. You should not have voice problems. You should not have language problem, which Pakistanis are very good in English, very, very good in English and all that. In skills, they're fantastic. So the idea is that you need to have very good communication. That is the top, I would say, the most important thing for you to get business. I'm telling you, even today, if I was to operate any kind of a new business in Pakistan and want to export, I would follow these steps. First, make sure that secondly, if I am in Karachi and it's 12 to 13 hours away from my customers in the West, I don't want the West to work on my timeline. No, I want to work on the West timeline. If you want to get the business, you have to understand you need to know who your potential
And
customer.
what their needs are. So you're saying strong communication skills,
Very
availability
important.
when they need you.
Fully understand. And then another very important, and these are the things that every time I tried to get a vendor from China, I would approach 10 of them. And the one that I would start communicating and then eventually making them my vendor for many, many years, did these things step by step. And every country has exactly the same. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000 competitors or 10,000 competitors. No. If communicate, you communicate exactly to the desires of the customer. It should be clear. And then when you respond as completely as possible. Because now the customer is not waiting for you. If you don't respond with completeness and with the urgency and all that, you're not making an impression. You want to exceed the expectations of the customer.
So you're saying articulate communication, working on the customer's timelines and based on their requirements, and then
Right.
exceeding those expectations. And if you do this consistently, you
Yeah.
think we can solve Pakistan's export
Oh,
problems.
I'm telling you, there is so much, like I said, so
So,
many.
so I have a question for you. So I have a question for you because
Please
here's the
go ahead.
challenge, right?
Yeah,
These are three very basic things,
right,
and we seem to have stagnating exports here for a while. You mentioned something when you and I were doing a little debrief last week that
right.
you said, and that really resonated with me, that you can do more for Pakistan sitting in the US than you can sitting in Pakistan. Now, my question is this: if you're saying that all we need to do is communicate effectively, understand the customer's needs, and meet and exceed expectations, but if there's no one there on the ground to teach people this, then how can those exports ever increase? Because ultimately, the challenge is in this environment, it is the same teachers teaching the students, and the students eventually then grow up and become teachers. And if they are staying within that small ecosystem and no outsider is coming in and giving them these skills, we will never grow. And so my
Exactly.
question is, why not have people like yourself come back and inculcate the skill set in industries here?
Yeah, now with this COVID situation and all that, and the Zoom and the Google Meet and the Microsoft Meet and all that, I think these things are becoming much more easier, likely, less costly, and all that to do that. I have done. I did speak 4 or 5 years ago at the NED entrepreneurship class. I did speak with the IBA class in Karachi, but again, it's not a one time. It needs to be repeated, and again, one time it doesn't go through. Now, so many entrepreneurs now. It's a great thing that the universities are now starting to think seriously about the entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs will have the same problem. Now, again, I'm talking about 75 years of issues and problems where a entrepreneur will ship a service or a product that is high quality, and a customer in the West, which is myself, gets very excited. And when I get the and I place the order, my first order that comes in or the service that comes in has too many product problems. You cannot do that. You cannot do that. So you need to make sure that yes, uh, I haven't spoken about the cost. The, the problems that I'm just telling you about, and which the entrepreneurs in Pakistan should know, two or three we spoke about. If you promise that you will ship something on such and such date and I will receive it on such and such date, I will hold you to it. But 99% of the time, it does not happen from things coming from Pakistan.
So you're saying that our problems are that basic that like people can't
Very, very,
communicate and can't ship
very,
things on time, but the talent is
Faizan,
here and the ability and the skill is here, but
Faizan, it is 100% what you're. It's just very simple. Ship just exactly guaranteed shipment, guaranteed quality. And even then, after 24 years, everything now I collect all the parts, and some parts I mold in my Los Angeles factory. Every week I ship them to my factory in Karachi. They assemble it every week, and every week they ship it back by air, not to my customers ever. I do not take those chances, because a Fortune 500 or an OEM means original equipment manufacturer. So everything that is around you right now is manufactured by an OEM, original
Mhm.
equipment manufacturer. So you need to make sure that the custom, because it's very difficult to make a customer, like I said, one customer after trying 3,300, and it is very easy to lose that customer. And the moment you lose that customer, there are so many waiting in the wings trying to take over that business. So you cannot do it one day and not do it in the. Now, I have always, with these large customers, I would ship them an excellent product for 10 years, and I make one mistake and I get chewed out like crazy. And you have to apologize and all that. And you have to immediately fix the problem. So they are very forgiving in fixing the problem, but you cannot keep, like you cannot keep saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry does not work in the West. So all I'm saying is, whether it is Europe or America, it's a piece of cake to become an excellent exporter outside of the zone, inside the zone. No issue. You have
Focus
and
on
the
the basics. That's
and
what
you
you're
have,
saying.
you have the biggest resource in Pakistan is the best young and middle age and young people with so much skills. And I come back to the fact that majority of the people that make a country are the people who are given basic education and lots of skills training. Yeah.
No, no, I completely understand. I mean, like what's really resonating with me is what you're saying is it's literally the basics. Speak speak and communicate with your customer effectively, meet and exceed expectations. If you're making a commitment, I will ship on this date, ship on that date, I'll deliver on this date, I'll deliver that date. My quality is going to be within, let's say, that tolerance or that standard deviation you've logged. But with you see, but the challenge here on the ground,
Right.
and you might have had a very fortunate experience at the export processing zone and in the 24 years that you've been here, but the challenge here on the ground is because there's so much variability in the environment around us,
Right.
political variability, economic variability, those variables ultimately impact our ability to create value, whether it is through the production of product or the
Yeah.
delivery of service. Let's say there's a rain that suddenly unforecasted rain happens, the roads get flooded, no one makes it to the office. Now you've got a Zoom meeting that you'd set up, but the internet is not working right. No one's in the office, no one's made the meeting on time, service delivery is affected. Similarly, there's a political strike or there's a jalsa or a julus that holds up traffic. Your workers don't make it to the plant. Whoever makes it into the plant is now rushing through orders. You'll make mistakes, quality gets affected. There's so much uncertainty and variability that what you're
Right.
saying is not possible. in this
But,
country. So it would be better to go to a different market then.
it's, I keep hearing my friends, oh, they're finding that going to these manufacturing zones in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Qatar, and all
There's no
these.
variables there. There's very
But
little variability.
I still say, yeah, Pakistan is home. That is where. And then
But
when I come,
that's an emotional argument. A
no, no,
logical,
no, but
financial,
yeah, but
efficiency-based argument would mean
yeah.
that pick a different market.
I would say the entrepreneurs have to be not only entrepreneurs in their own product, but they have to be entrepreneur in learning how to navigate these difficulties on the ground outside of the zone. Yes, the zone has much less issues, but now I am making, I'm manufacturing solar panels in the zone, and then I'm now putting solar systems for homes and factories in Karachi outside of the zone. So it is really, but that's for Pakistan.
Right.
But like I said, you have to, in your cost of doing business for exporting, you have to include all those
Factors,
difficulties,
yeah.
the bureaucratic difficulties. But here is my feeling that the government is I would say, the government is as, I would say, helpless in what to do with, so they are not only part of the problem in solving, making it easy so that the shipment doesn't get stuck and anything. I think it's a combination of the exporters and the combination of the government making it, because the government does, I do feel that the government wants the exports to increase, but they don't really fully
It's
understand.
it's it's like, me wanting to lose weight. I mean, unless I'm going to put in the effort and cut my diet and increase my exercise,
Yeah.
I
It's
can want to lose weight as much as I want. It may not happen, you
Faizan,
know?
yeah, Faizan, I'm an engineer, and the bigger the challenge, the more excited I get. So when
Right.
you see there are problems in Pakistan, I am saying for every one problem, there are 10 solutions also. It is not exactly the same for every potential exporter, but I do see that many of the problems why Pakistan keeps losing customers rather than making customers, I've seen it for, like I said, for 6 decades, I've seen the problems. Like I said, it's just all fixable problems.
So okay, so let me switch gears. If you had to pick one sector now, after seeing, let's say, 40 years of experience, being the pioneer and the father of an entire industry, Pakistan specific, if there's one sector you think that an entrepreneur should get into in Pakistan, leverage so that they can earn dollars, what would be that sector today, right now?
In overall, looking at the abilities, and I'm just starting to utilize that aspect of it and very pleasantly surprised, is engineered products.
Interesting. And what kind of engineered products? Because
You know,
we
you
don't
know,
have a lot of high
no,
engineering
no, no.
machinery and capability here.
Just to give you an example. One of my biggest customer is Caterpillar, and they challenged me a few weeks because I make many many indicators for them, and they make the machines as big as
Right.
China. You cannot
Those big
imagine.
mining machines that are
The,
like
the
literally
biggest
one
company,
tire is the size of a building.
right, the biggest company in the world, and they are our biggest customer. So they suddenly said that our indicator supplier is having problem with almost 50 to 100 different products that are going out of manufacturing. Can you help us? And I looked at it. I said, if you're willing to, allow some minor design improvements and variations, and I don't like to give customer less than what they're expecting. I like to exceed their expectations. Always challenge my customer in saying, exceed my expectation of delivery, exceed the expectation of quality, exceed the expectation of the performance of the indicator. You want to always exceed the expectation of your potential customer. So they gave me the challenge. They said, Pervaiz, go ahead and do it. And I immediately gave that challenge to my factory in Karachi.
Hmm.
My Pakistan manager, biggest blessing of my life, gave him exactly just basic information. And lo and behold, in a record time, they developed the product, prototyped the product, and I sampled it to them. And the customer said, I think today they placed the order, a sample order to do some quality testing. They will do thorough quality testing. They cannot put an indicator on their tractors and then the indicator fails. We do a thorough testing. So today we got the sample order.
And what
And
was it about the market here that was able to create that engineered product
you
for
know,
you? Like, was it the
engineering
talent
skills,
here?
talent.
The talent.
It's amazing. Both boys and girls in Pakistan, they're amazing. They'll do more than what you. But the thing is, you need to respect them for their, you need to give them tools. You need to give them training. Like I said, you know, there are multiple challenges, but there are no. I still, I would not change my statement saying Pakistan cannot become a big exporter of many products. Just
Completely agree with you. I think that there's a lot of potential here. It just needs to be challenged correctly. And I think that the variability that exists, the instability and uncertainty, I think it's
and
just a missing good leader, good leadership at the top.
yeah, yeah,
The
among the
talent
products.
certainly exists.
Yeah, you said one industry that would be good. That has not, the. I think the government thinks the biggest industry is maybe textile, but textile
Textiles.
has been made into problems. Or biggest industry is sending oranges and apples and all that. No, it is not. Uh, IT, but
Has a lot of
not the
potential.
not the first, not the top end of the IT, the back end of the IT. And the reason for that, Faizan, is that the IT requires tremendous amount of man hours to do the back end work. It is
To do the
very
actual code itself.
it is value added IT work, and then the finishing touches of these successful industries from Pakistan or other places are then done in the West.
Right.
Not the end. You do not, so you do want a good receiving resource in the West. Now the companies that are continuing to be successful, their sons and daughters are in the West. Their relatives are manufacturing in Pakistan, so
So the
they're
factory
making.
is Pakistan and the marketplace is the West.
Exactly.
But here's so, and this is my last point. I know we're a little bit over time. I gave this example, and it's a bit of a controversial example. In Karachi, if you notice where the factories are located, right? So there's Kurangi,
Right.
Landhi site.
Right.
You can go to, let's say, Nooriabad if you go outside the city.
Right.
North Karachi, Surjani, some small factories are there.
Right.
All of these localities where the factories are located are not high-end localities. Low income, labor class. And if you go to any of these locations, they're not well developed. Roads are broken, major issues, traffic. I mean, it's just not ideal. The owners of those factories live in Clifton Defense, KDA, premium
Right.
locations, PCHS.
Right.
And those neighborhoods are much better off than the factories are.
Right.
They're nice green lined streets, easy, comfortable living relative to where their factories are. I made the example that what you just said, that the sons and daughters are living in the West while they're procuring from Pakistan. Is Pakistan like a site Kurangi Lanthi while the owner is living in the West, which is like the defense, KDA, or PCHS? Because then if that is the case, then Pakistan will always be treated like a site Kurangi or Lanthi and never be developed.
The best thing I've heard is about the entrepreneurship coming out in large numbers. And I think we need to encourage the entrepreneurs, not fix them to one product or one industry or one whatever. I think we need to continue giving them food for thought, basic information as to because I'm in the West for right now. I'm here since 1967, which is 55 years. So you said I can do more. By coming to America, I was able, and then many other Pakistanis like myself, they acquired the best practices by being in the West. I acquired many different types of best practices. And for me to become a teacher of those best practices to impart them in Pakistan, which you just asked me a few minutes ago, is very critical. But again, I can, what I can tell you is I can show you where the gold is. I can
Hmm.
give you the tools. I can show you how to dig it, but I will not do the digging for you.
Right.
My grandfather 50 years ago taught me a lesson in a few moments that teach a person how to catch fish. Don't, yeah,
Fish for
that's
them.
how you do it. And I have never changed from that. So I'm doing that for thousands of people in the villages where I'm providing them this so-called LED technology mixed with solar, because I saw
Right.
LEDs become the most. 20 years ago, I tested that in Fateh Jang 20 years ago, how solar and LED becomes the best brother and sister, and it's getting better and better. So solar is a major plus for Pakistan to at least affect 10, 20, 30% of their energy problems. It's there's just, like I said, it's the biggest gold mine. Pakistan is and I will end saying that for 75 years there's a layer of dust collecting on that gold, 75 layers, and each layer has to be cleaned off one layer at a time, eventually for the gold to be visible. I have always offered that I'll clean the few layers that if you ask me to. I have no shame in picking up a jadu and doing the cleaning, no problem. So I am going to continue increasing my amount of work that I give to Pakistan, change the life of the people in the villages in a positive way. Each light I give to them changes the life of that family, 10 to 15 people almost instantly. I've gone to villages for the last 20 years. I go to villages to study how I can impact with the minimum cost out of my pocket to make a change for the entire family. So it's taking place. It's unbelievable what can happen in Pakistan.
Thank you, Pervaiz Sahab. You're making great contribution in this environment. The fact that you still are connected to the ground here, you still have industry based here, you visit the schools and the colleges and you impart knowledge, I think is what we need here. And thank you for your service to Pakistan and for supporting Pakistan. And again, once again, congratulations on being the founder of the LED industry and brightening, literally brightening Pakistan's name in this particular field. And I appreciate you taking the time and coming on chatting with me about your experiences thus far.
Thank you, Faizan. Thank you, Faizan.
And
Pakistan
thank you
Zindabad.
all, Pakistan
Thank you.
Zindabad. Thank you all for tuning in and stay tuned for more episodes next week.